Welcome to Getting Rich Together, the show for successful women who are looking to take their financial futures to the next level. I'm your host, Shama Bunton. When I started my wealth building journey, nobody knocked on my door to give me all the answers. So I want to talk to the experts who've done it and bring the answers to you so we can discover the right opportunities that will help us achieve the financial futures we've always dreamed of together and have fun doing it. So let's dive into this episode and start getting rich together. I am here today with the incredible Sun-Young Kim-Manzolini. Sun-Young, the moment I met you, I fell in love with your earnestness, your integrity, and the stories that you were telling me about your life. Now, most people today, if they found you on LinkedIn, they would see that you are an entrepreneur, an options trader, an author, a mindset coach, a business coach. You are doing some such incredible work and contributions in the world. But what really struck me was your earnestness and really your spirit and how you showed up in our conversations. So I'm so excited to have you here today on Getting Rich Together. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm just honored to be here, to be, in front of your audience, and hopefully that they will be enjoying our conversations. We're just talking to them, just casual. So that's great.
I love that. So let us start from the beginning, Sun-Young. Tell me, what was life like for you as a little girl around the age of, 7, 10, 12 years old? Take us back. Where were you living? What was life like around you? And what did money look like around you? What did you think of your life at that time?
Oh boy. That time of my life was really, I was just living basically meal to meal. I was born in South Korea. After my mother passed away, my dad decided to abandon my sister and I, so we ended up in an orphanage. And as age 5 or so. So when you say we're talking about age 7 or 10, I was in a second orphanage. We were in 2 different orphanages. My sister and I were. So first orphanage that we ended up living there, and I think my sister was working there as a staff. And at that orphanage, I realized that our family was normal. When my dad left us and we became an instant orphan, and I was mad at him, and I'm like, and at that point, I thought about why is he living us? Doesn't he have enough money? What kind of job people have to raise a family? That just stuck to my mind as a little girl. So when we ended up in our first orphanage, the couple of biggest things that I realized was that families being separated was normal, because the babies were being dropped off in front of the door at the orphanage, and the orphanage workers would say, "Oh, we got another baby." Got dropped off at the front of the door, and I heard a baby crying and everything. So I thought, oh, okay, that's normal then. So I wasn't so mad at my dad, because I just thought that's what everybody did, they just separated, families, not knowing. And then second thing that I realized at that orphanage was I was observing my friends were playing outside, and I thought, I said, I want to go out there and play with my friends, but I couldn't. See, because I could not walk. And so I thought to myself, but I think my sister, probably from the distance, she was probably 5 or 10 years older than I was. She was probably looking at me from the distance and saying, maybe she has to do something about my situations. She was next to me. I just looking at the windows, wow, I wish I could be out there. So one day out of the blue, my sister showed me a picture of another orphanage, and she said, "This is where I'm going to take you." And I said, why? Because she and I would never had a conversations about me not walking. Nobody really talked to me about anything that was wrong with me. I just, other than I just observe other kids, and it's like, I'm not like them. I can't walk. And so anyway, so she says, I'm going to have to take you there. And I said, no, no, thank you. I don't really need to go anywhere. I just want to be with you. Because remember, I just lost my mom, lost my dad, and she was my only hope. And so I was just very content with her, no matter wherever we lived. I just want to be with her. And she insisted upon, taking me there. So we ended up going to that second orphanage because she told me that that's the orphanage that they're going to teach you how to walk. And as a little girl, it's like, I don't care. I said, I don't want to learn to walk. I just want to be with you. That was my main goal. That's the only thing I want in the whole entire world. Think about when we're young, there's certain things that we want. And I just want to be with my sister. So we got there and I was really shocked because all the kids that I saw at the second orphanage was that they were all handicapped. They were all walking with the crutches. They were getting around with the wheelchairs, and they were limping as they were walking. And I have never seen anybody, all the people around me, all the kids that are around me, if you see somebody different than you, it's one thing. But when you see every corner that you turn around, everybody was just getting around that way. And I thought, I'm scared because they look very different, But then there's me. I couldn't even, stand up to get up on the wheelchair. I was just squeezing myself with my buttock and my hands on my right knee and just getting around that way. And I thought, so I really didn't have a room to talk, but I was just very scared. And my sister and I, we just had a lot of going back and forth. She wanted to leave and I told her she couldn't leave. And she finally had to lie to me saying that she had to go to the bathroom. And so that's how we got separated. And at that moment, that day, I feel like the world was ending for me. I didn't really want to live anymore. I really didn't care to talk to anybody. I really didn't want to smile. There's nothing to smile about. And because I waited, for her to come back after she went to the bathroom. And I know that it doesn't take all day long. And when dinner time came, I didn't even eat dinner, what they were serving. I was just really pissed off, really mad at the entire world just because of what my sister did. Not what, happened to my mom or dad, but particularly my sister, because that's all I had is just her. But in that orphanage, the orphanage workers just show me how to walk by, showing me the rails that they have installed all along the walls in that orphanage. And she showed me how to hang onto the rail and then stand up and then sit down and then hang onto the rail and then stand up to the point where I got to be really comfortable doing that. And then I could hang onto it and then take a step. I didn't have any physical therapist, and she was too busy to, watch other kids, but she just showed me what to do. And this is what you got to do every day until you feel comfortable. And so I did that. And I took my very first step when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I remember that day, it was just happened like half hour ago or 5 minutes ago, where there was nothing around me. There was no chair, no rails, nobody next to me in case I fall. But they were, over there and saying, okay, stand up and just take a step. And I got so scared. I'm like, what do you mean? And I said, I gotta have something just in case I fall, right? And she says, no, you don't need it, but just stand up and just take a step. And I was just so nervous. I mean, my legs were shaky because I have nothing to lean on, nothing to hang on to in case. Because, we live our life, there's always somebody that we can lean on in case something doesn't work out or, in case we get scared. But they basically, because I think they observed me that I did that every single day for a couple of years, because that was my main goal to walk. I mean, that's all I have to do. So they says, take a walk, and I took one step and I And I thought the floor was going to move. That's the reason why I don't want to take a step, because I thought if I take a step, this floor is going to move. Because nobody really explained to me and say, it's okay. Floor is going to stay. Nobody really told me other than just take a step. So I did. And I realized that floor didn't move and I didn't fall. And I took a step without hanging on to anybody. So I'm like, this is so cool. And so then I took another step with my left foot. And that's the moment I realized that I have own power to do something that I never thought that I could do. But I was just so happy. And so first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to help other kids that couldn't walk straight, and push other kids in a wheelchair and stuff like that. So I was really, really happy that day. Was like, oh, but same token, I still had this hatred towards my sister. Because I was a little girl. I still was, like, I didn't say, oh, I'm glad that she dropped me out, because I wasn't mature enough to understand. I just went through what's happening day by day. But I lived most of my life just wondering. I still wanted to live with her, even though I learned to walk. That just meant more to me than to walk, But I think she knew that what was best for me. And she knew that she didn't have any resources or money or anything like that. She found this orphanage, it's a rehab center, that if she drops me out, then that would help me learn to walk. So I did that. But so life in that orphanage was pretty brutal, because 100% of the kids were all handicapped, but there's 80% of the kids had a family and they were handicapped. And then there's about 20% of us that was handicapped, but we were orphans. We didn't have any. And so during the summer, other families would come and see their kids, or on the weekends, we never got any visitors because we didn't have any family. So like I saw other kids eating candies and getting new clothes, and they come back to orphanage from the weekend or during the summer, they would just come back with new clothes. And I was just kind of, man, I wish I could have those things. So one day though, some of the kids were chewing gum, and I thought, oh, I wanted to chew gum. And I wanted to ask my friend can I have a piece of gum? But I was too embarrassed. I was too shy. And I didn't know, if they would give it to me or not. Again, because I was living in my life that I didn't trust anybody, and thinking that who's going to be nice to me after I was being bedded by 3 members of my family. My mother, she just died, but I was very shy, never really talked to anybody. So I thought, I want to chew gum. And I was about 10 or 11 by that, and I was walking. And so I asked my girlfriend that we hang out, and I said, hey, do you want to go outside? I just said, do you want to go chew a gum? And she said, sure. And she thought that we were just going to get a gum. But I said, let's just go outside and take a walk. And so we went outside the orphanage, and we didn't go too far, but just around the building. And we saw some gums that were stuck inside on the pavement, the people walk, streets. And so my girlfriend and I, we picked up a gum, and it was, there were some rocks and things. I picked it off the best I can, and then I chewed it, and I felt very cool. That's the coolest thing that I've done as a teenager. Like my friend and I were like, very cool. It's like, we got to chew a gum, right? But the gum, when I chewed that gum, it was still a little crunchy because there was still little rocks. I mean, picked out the best I could, but there was still a little bit. But who knows how long that gum's been in that street. Many shoes been walked on and everything. And so I felt very cool, and I thought, I'm doing what they're doing. They're chewing gum, so am I. So chewing, I feel really good. And I didn't know any better other than it's really cool. And then going forward, in that orphanage where I had no purpose, I just lived meal to meal. Like we got served with breakfast, and I thought, what's my next meal? I can't wait till lunchtime. I can't wait till dinner time. That's only purpose I have. We never, nobody recognized our birthdays or Christmas or no holidays, nothing like that. It was just every day was same. So although I did have a one Christmas, I got an apple by my head, and that apple was just so delicious. Every bite I took, it was just like, oh, I could still taste it. Oh, I just thought, oh my gosh, thank you. I got an apple. But going forward, when I was 14 years old, there was an American family that lives in Utah. They still do. And they wanted to adopt a special needs child. And so I was under that category, age 14. I did walk, but I needed some surgery because my legs were pretty crooked. And I had some things wrong with my lip. I was born with a hair lip also. So they adopted me, but they had 6 of their own kids and they adopted another child. So they already had 8 kids. And so bless their heart, they had a big heart. And so they adopted me and they fixed me all up. They gave me all kinds of surgeries and I just couldn't believe. But when I first came,
Were you scared when you?
I was really scared. I was so scared because there's a lot of things that went through my mind. Oh my gosh. Like I had the biggest doubt. I thought, who would really want me? Come on. Who would really want me just the way I look, the way I am, right? Who would want me? And then I had to go to a country that I don't know any English, you know? And then on top of that, I have to learn to trust people. When I just realized I can't trust anybody, I decided not to trust anybody because my sister, Pinky, promised me that she was coming back and never did. And so I had to deal with the trusting people, learn to be a part of the family, which I don't know how to, learn the language and learn the culture, just everything. I was just so scared. But I was so grateful at the same time. So when I did come over, they showered me with all kinds of clothes, like new shoes, like 2 or 3 pairs, tennis shoes and school shoes and dress for church and clothes and underwears and bras. I was age 14 and I didn't have any of that stuff. And in fact, they send orphanages some money so that they could buy me a clothes for me to wear to come to America. Something that's representable, you know? And so I have nothing other than I just had a few pictures of my friends from orphanage. But anyway, and so when they showered me with all those things, and I was just crying with the joy because I thought, this is way more than I could handle. They are just spoiling me. And I thought, whatever they bought me, it's going to last me a lifetime. I don't need anything else. That's all I need. I was just so grateful, just so grateful. And I just could not believe it that someone would adopt me and buy me all these things. But to them, it's just a basic necessity, you know. But to me, it's, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't deserve all this. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve all these presents, you know. And so when I was living with them and they told me, this is just study hard and get good grades and go to college and get a good paying job. And so I did exactly that because I thought in back of my mind still, even though throughout my junior high and high school, I was still thinking back in my mind, if I don't do these things like they tell me to do, I'm pretty sure they're going to send me back to Korea. Guarantee that they're going to send me back to Korea. Because we live with this mindset of we can't believe 100%. You know what I mean? Even though we're doing things that pleases them, but in back of my mind, because my mind is just all messed up as a child, is, oh, I'm sure they're going to send me back in a heartbeat if I don't learn the language to be able to speak with them. But it wasn't that case, you know, but in back of my mind, that's what I was thinking. So I did everything I can. I would get up at 4 in the morning and study, and then I took all summer classes, whatever English class, whatever they offered during the summer, I would just take it. I would not take a break at all. But luckily, I came over like in May, 27, and it was just like a beginning of a summertime for the kids. And so my mother sacrificed whole summer to teach me English, like ABCs and everything like that. So I could start junior high when the fall, the school started. So my mother, my parents were just loving, and my mother really did a lot of sacrificing because she had 7 kids to take care of. But here she was having to teach me so I could survive in school in the fall. So I did. I was able to go to junior high and graduate, and then I ended up getting a certificate and being a certified medical assistant, which was my dream job. I wanted to be a nurse in a doctor's office or clinic settings, not at the hospital, because there's a different patients that I will work with. And so I did that for 33 years, and it was like my dream job. Like, I loved it. And I was just like so excited to go to bed at night, just to get up in the morning, just to go to work. That's how excited I was, because I truly, truly.
Did you work at the same place for 33 years?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is also something that you just don't hear people saying anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The dedication to someone's profession. And tell me a little bit about what it was like to grow up, right, with this job.
Yeah.
Because it's been a part of your whole life, and also your independence and your ability to provide for yourself and all of these things. How was that experience over those decades?
Well, that experience really brought me, like, I feel the richest person, because to me, like, I'm able to make money. I have a car to drive to work, which I never had that, and I had a freedom, and I was making my patients happy. It wasn't all about me. It was all about them, because it was a passion for me, just because I really, really love helping people. In fact, when I learned to walk in orphanages, they gave me a little white dress to wear. They called me a little nurse, because I was helping people. As soon as I learned to walk, I said, okay, I want to help push wheelchairs. And as I saw, I had that title as a little nurse when I was in an orphanage. And so I guess that kind of stuck to my mind. And I didn't want to be an RN, because RN made more money. But I wasn't going for making more money at the time. I was just going for my passion, what I enjoy doing. And I really felt like it was a dream come true. Here I am, I studied hard, got good grades, able to go to college, and then get a job, and ended up in my dream job. And it was just like, I don't need anything more. But then I realized along the journey, I got married, and for about 14 years, ended up having 3 kids. I divorced my first husband, and I found myself raising 3 kids as a single mother. And I was still working there. And it was my dream job, but I thought something is wrong with this picture. Like, why don't I work in my dream job. I'm passionate about it, but why wasn't I making enough money to just live comfortably, not luxury-wise, but just be comfortable. And so I really struggled as a single mother, living paycheck to paycheck, hard time paying bills, things like that. But still, I feel rich because I was able to still work and everything. And life was just really great. I just ended up working another job, picked up a side hustles, work on the weekends. I never got to spend my time with my kids because I just worked 6 days a week, basically, But other than that, I was still grateful because I was able to have a job that I loved. And I just feel like some people couldn't have a job that they love. Some people went to work because they had to go to work and they had to make money. For me, I had to make money, but I enjoyed it. It was truly my dream job every day. But I realized when it came to be, when people were retiring, my patients were retiring, and I was hearing their stories and things like that. And I thought to myself, like, I need to retire early. I don't want to be retired people like some of the people that I have heard. They worked for companies for 30, 40 years. And then when they're eligible to retire, they were exhausted mentally and physically. And instead of them going on a vacations with the money that they have saved up, they would spend that money on doctor's offices, emergency rooms, instead of going on a vacation. And then some of them retire, and then they ended up getting another job because they didn't have enough money to stay retired. So they would take on another job and start from the very bottom. So here's the CEOs that work for companies for 30, 40 years, and then they retire. And then because they put in that time, and then they retire and they work for somewhere else. And instead of being up a CEO, they start from the bottom. And I thought, it doesn't make sense to me at all. And then some people, they didn't have any schedule. They could not motivate themselves to stay busy after retire. And so they went back to work. And so all these things that I have learned, valuable lessons from my patients that I have learned that I didn't expect to, but I choose to listen and I choose to hear what they're saying, right?
What wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. I choose, because everybody tells you something, we could ignore it and we could take it. And then how can we apply that into our life? As I literally took those stories that I have heard from so many people. And so I had no idea of wanting to retire, but because of those stories, I choose to listen and take it in my personal life, and say, what can I do so that I don't fall into that kind of trap? You know what I mean? A lot of the societies go through. And so I decided to retire early. And so I started talking about it. And I told my doctor, I said, I'm going to retire 2014. And he says, when? And I said, within a year. And he says, can you afford it? And I said, no.
Talk of taking another step forward and not knowing if the ground was going to be there. I mean, that was, I want to retire. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's going to happen.
To me, like, we have to take this kind of big leap in our mind, because I thought I learned to walk and I didn't know how I'm going to get a gun, but I found a way to chew gum. You know what I mean? Those things that kind of shaped me. But at the time, we don't know that that's shaping me to be who I am today. I think about it, but we just do what we have to do. But we just have to take something that nobody said that you could do, but you just do that and then hope for the best, but not knowing the results, just doing it, right? Because you have a big purpose, like what you want to accomplish. And so I knew that I was retiring early enough where I cannot get my pension, or my 401k that I had with this company. And so basically I had nothing to retire to, because again, I just only had $10 in my checking account, nothing in my savings. And so I was starting to prepare myself and start going to seminars for real estate, taking classes, because I thought, I want to retire, but I don't want to stay away from home. I want to stay home. And I don't want to get another job working for another company starting from the bottom, because otherwise, might as well stay here. Because I was at the topest wage for my being a certified medical assistant. As anyway, so I started taking classes, and then exactly 1 year from time that I was talking to my doctor about, and he was scaring me. He didn't mean to scare me, but he scared me because he says, I can't retire. He says, I can have at least $1 million or more, because by the time we retire, because him and I were like 2 weeks apart in age. And he says, by the time we retire, everything's going to be so expensive. We have to have so much money. And he says, I got to have at least $1 million or more to be able to live just ordinary life, because things are going to go up and stuff. And back in my mind, when he told me that he has to have at least $1 million, I thought, of course, I didn't tell him I only had $10 in my checking account. I knew what I was dealing with. And he scared me in that way, but he didn't mean to. He just told me the facts, right? In real life, realistic. And I got really scared. I really was. And I was like, oh man, But the same token, I thought to myself, there's no way in the world that I could have $1 million if I continue to stay at my dream job. There's just no way. So I had no choice. So I had to retire. So I was just wanting a goal.
Wait, I love that. I love something that you just said. In my dream job, I was never going to have the money. And so I had to leave so that you could have the money. It's a really interesting concept because a lot of times people think, okay, I need to stay in this thing because it's stable and secure and it may not get me to where I want to be, but I'm too scared to find out what's on the other side. So I'm just going to stay with the thing that I know makes me unhappy or isn't the thing I want. And the courage to say, I love this and this isn't working for me anymore.
Yeah.
And to separate yourself from the known and to go into the unknown is so brave. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
I've had so many people say there because, like you mentioned, it's normal and it doesn't raise any change, any noise. Oh, scary, right? And people, even though they're miserable, and they'll stay there because of the comfort and all the things that you just mentioned. But for me, like, I love my job, but it did not align with what I need. And there's just no way that I'll be able to have even $100,000, let alone. I was only making like $35,000 a year or so, And every time my doctor went on a vacation because he made more money than me, and I would also tell my supervisor, can I work for another doctor? I couldn't take the time off because I needed the money. And on top of that, I worked my only day off because I needed to supplement because I was a single mother and everything. So I just realized I would never make the kind of money that I need to make at my dream job. And so when you think about things that align with you, right? And it's not being greedy, wanting to make more money. You got to think about this. Money is a tool because the more tool you have, the bigger tool that you have, meaning you have more money, you make more bigger figure, 7, 8 figure, 9, 10 figure. It's like having a more tool. You could do more things, And so I just go ahead and retire. Actually, my doctor was on vacations and because I retired within a year, I'm a very goal-driven person and taking actions right away. That's one thing that I realized. I have a lot of patience and I got that tenacity that I live with every single day, no matter whatever I do. I'm just willing to face it on. Give it to me and I'll face it, right? Because I could say, no, I don't deserve it. I don't want to be adopted. No, I don't have any money. I can't chew gum. No, I can't even stand up. I don't want to learn to walk. I could have come up with all those excuses and I wouldn't be where I am today. But instead, we take ourselves when somebody else gives us an opportunity, or sometimes we have to give ourselves an opportunity, go there where there's opportunity, and you have to take actions. Yeah, my sister dropped me off at the orphanage, but if I didn't take actions to learn to walk, I would be a different person. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Okay, so it's
basically
your marker.
Yeah.
And you're okay. How did you make this work? How did you start to figure this?
So basically, I told myself I thought, you know what? So since it does not align with my pay with my dream job, and basically I just realized in my mind that you know what? There's a people out there is making money. They're not working for a company, but there's rich people out there making money. And I didn't have anybody within my circle, my family members that were millionaires or anything like that. I didn't have anybody to say, oh, really, you make good money? Let me do what you do, But I just basically realized okay, I'll never make that kind of money in my dream job. And there's people out there living their dream life and they're making their dream income. So I thought to myself, why not me? Why not me? I could do that. But I haven't had any skills, that moment when I was thinking. So basically taking that mindset, like changing it to what capable that I could do instead of what I cannot do. Because when I realized I can't do it, I don't know anybody that within my circle, in front of me, next to me, side of me, I don't know anybody. When we focus on those things, then you can't really go forward. You can't really do anything at all, right? But when the world is full of opportunities. I mean, seriously, whatever we focus, that's where our energy goes. And so when I focused on, I'm going to live my dream life and I'm going to make my dream income all by myself, like not having to work for a company. That was my dream. That was my goal. And so as I was attending this, real estate seminars and things like that, and they said, oh my gosh, you're going to make so much money. They were telling a group of us, 500, 600 people at the seminar, they were like, what are you going to do with your money? You got to learn to invest so that your money could work for you while you're asleep. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't made any money. That's what I went to real estate seminars because I did have a rental property because I was living in a house as a single mother, and then I got remarried. So the house that I lived in with my girls, I was just renting that out, but I wasn't making any money. I was losing money because I can take care of it and all that. So that's the reason why I went to real estate, trying to get some skills and some educations and how to run the real estate. So when they talked about the option trading, once you make so much money, how are you going to invest? And I said, okay, that sounds good. But I said, what does that entail? What is option trading? I have never heard about it. And they told me that it's like getting into a stock market, but you have to use a computer. And the computer is, oh my gosh, no thank you. I hate computers. I don't like to check email. I get so scared about wanting to learn any kind of technologies. And so that was out for me. So no thanks. So I turned out automatically because of the scares, because of the fear that I don't want to work with the computer. I don't want to learn new skills. So then we decided to just go that. But I said to myself, I thought, you know what? I do want to have a hobby after I retire. I want to stay busy mentally. And so maybe I'll just pay money to learn option trading, and then I'll just take that as a hobby. So my husband and I, we paid money to take option trading classes. And I thought to myself, like most people have a hobby, they spend a lot of money, fishing, hunting. I've been with some guys that are hunting and fishing, and they spend a lot of money just on the weekends. And I thought, I'm going to take on a hobby after I retire. I don't have to spend money. I'll just pay a little bit to learn the skills. And so I took on this option trading as a hobby, basically. And I ended up.
How long were you at that time, Sanyang, like when you decided to do options trading?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I was about 54.
Wow. So like jump to a whole new skill set.
Yes.
New thinking and okay.
So it's not I was a young and tech savvy. I was at the age and I was over 50 and I thought, I'm not learning this, because when I was working, I hate checking emails. So, my staffs would show up with this. We all have to wear like certain scrubs, like Tuesdays and Thursdays. Or on Fridays, like they would wear Levi's. And I'm like, why are you guys wearing Levi's? And they're like, did you see the email? And I go, no, because I hate emails. That's how much I hated computer. And so for me to take on learning after age 50, it's like big step, big jump, And so I thought, no. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take this on as a hobby. And so when I retired in 2015, starting 2016 in January, I took my hobby very seriously because I wanted to stay busy, But in 2016, I did work as an ambassador for a real estate company. So I gave I went to speaking engagements, and I would get paid $200, $300 for speaking 5 minutes. And I thought, I love that because I was telling people, it's like, yeah, I had a real estate, but I didn't make any money. But they wanted me to talk about it. They wanted me to talk about how I made money with the company. But basically, I did purchase a lot of properties, save time, I was there to learning skills and things. So basically, that's how I made some money during that time. But I did it like 3, 4 times, and they wanted me to start like traveling, and I didn't want to travel. And so again, it was my turn, even though I needed the money, but I was fine speaking locally. But then when they wanted me to travel, so like I didn't want to at the time. So I took this option trading as a very serious hobby. So I would practice every single day just for fun, you know?
How much did you start with? Did you put
So,
like a little bit of money in? Like,
so
how did you start to
yes.
learn?
So when you sign on with company to do trading, they give you like 200,000 virtual money to practice. And so I had a $200,000 virtual money to practice it, for 2016. And I realized I was noticing something when I was really passionate about doing my hobby. I was making really good money. And I thought, what if I could do this for real money? I was just like,
Yeah.
So I got some loans from home equity loan in 2017. That's when I started doing it with the real money, because I thought, no matter how much I love this, but if I was making this kind of results, getting this kind of results, making $50,000 in 2 weeks, or less than that sometimes, and I was just like so surprised. And I told my husband, my second husband, I got married. And so I told him that, and said, too bad it's not real money. I was like, dang, too bad it's not real money that I was making like $10,000 less than 30 days, because I got really good at it, because I was practicing, I was intrigued, I was curious, and it was my new hobby. And so I said, I'm going to do it with the real money. Who says you couldn't?
Was that scary?
Was
it scary?
It was very scary.
I mean, so you had your home that you owned. Did you have other properties, or was this, I'm taking this out of our primary residence? Like, how did you decide?
I took home equity loan from the home that we live in. So basically, when I didn't have a lot of money, but using resources, I ended up buying some properties out of different states, rentals, and some properties locally, just being resourceful. And so I was investing in properties before I started doing option trading. But I was buying the properties, and I turned it into like rentals, and then I was buying it and holding it, things like that. So I had that going. And then I needed some cash flow, so I took some money from the home equity loan and started option trading. But when I was practicing with the virtual money, I came up with this really simple strategy. It's called Unique Miracle System. And I thought, I'm going to use this system with my real money. And I knew the results that I was getting with the virtual money. And so I thought, I'm going to do exactly what I did. Why not? Virtual money with the real money. I use the same strategies. And so I did. So my first year, I made $178,000. First year. And I thought to myself, like 30 to 35,000 to 178, and 6 times my income. This is unreal. And so I got really excited, and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited, But think about it. You're working with the stock market, okay? And so like people buy stocks and sell stocks, and buying stocks are very expensive. And so people only buy like percentage. And options are so much cheaper, but you still work with the stock, buying stock options. And so I was really, really happy. And so I
Can you again just a little bit for our audience what options trading is, so that they have a good understanding of how it operates and what it is?
Yeah. So basically, I'm just going to kind of explain like a very basic level, so it doesn't really overwhelm people. So imagine like you're playing a game, okay? And you buy the things, you buy something, and then you're going to do something with it later. How many times like we buy things at the store, I'm going to buy this, and I'm sure I'm going to find to use it somewhere later. You know what I mean? So does that make sense? So we buy, so we're just playing a game. This is how I'm going to explain. We're going to play a game. You can buy something, right, to buy something and you do something with it later, right? And that's what the options are. An option is like a special ticket that you buy, and then it gives you a choice. Either you could buy or sell. So let's say you're going to go to a concert. So I'm going to buy a concert ticket, and then I could keep it and go to the concert, enjoy it, or I could sell this ticket to somebody else. So you have a right to sell, or you could keep it. That's what it is. So that's what option is. So usually it works with the stocks, with the option stocks. But you have to buy it in a specific price. Like we buy things that are on sale at the store. So when you want to turn around and sell it for a higher price, you make a profit. So it's like that. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to make a profit, right? So that's what it is. And within the options, there's two types. There's a call options and there's a put options, two different types. And call options, think of it as like you're buying ticket, and the put options, basically you're selling the ticket. So that's what it is. So two different types of options. And the option trading, it has an expiring date. So when you buy stocks, you could hold it for 30 years or 40, 50 years. With the company you buy it, you could hold, and then you could sell it when the price goes up. But with the options, there's an expired date. So like when you buy tickets, it's only good for, you know how we get coupons when we go to Kohl's and say, you got this cash, $10 cash, but you got to use it by a certain date. So that's what it is. Like you buy stock options, and then we get to decide, whoever, like I'm getting into options, I get to decide when this is going to expire. 1 day or 2 weeks or 1 year, 3 years. You could just decide when you want this to get expired. So you have a lot of flexibility. So it's very interesting. But when the expiry date comes, you have to sell it. So we buy these options within the stock market, stock options, and then you sell it by a certain day. You have to, or before. So it depends on the market. So let's say I bought a down trade, and then market is going down and I'm making money, then I'm going to just sell it and then make a profit. But if market goes up, when I set up a down trade, then, I'm losing money, right? So sometimes you lose money, or sometimes you hold it a little bit longer to make money because you let it expire for 20 days or 30 days. So that's basically,
it's
really
good they give you your money to play with first. It's good they give you the money to play with. So really fine-tune your strategy on that. Okay, so you decided you're really good at doing this, and you're like, we're going to pull money out of our house to start option trading, which is really exciting. The first year, you make $178,000, which is so remarkable. Now, the systems, and that was what, 10 years ago? 15 years ago?
Yeah, that was like 2017. Yeah, 2017, yeah. That's when I started with the real money. So now, it's 10 years later, so I retired 2015, so this December will be 10 years. So it's about 8 years or so since I've been doing option trading. And then my husband retired in 2017, the year that I was making money, because I said, I'm going to retire then. You're doing so good. I was like, I could retire when I could start traveling, right? And so he retired, and then he worked for government. He had $164,000 in his pension plan. And so we thought, instead of turning that more over to somebody else to invest for us, like, what am I doing? It's like, I'm pretty good at it. We both saw what I was doing. And so we did that. 2 years late, let's say 2000. So he retired 2017, but we moved the money to the IRA. And then we decided to start investing. We just let her hold it for a year. And then we weren't really making a lot of interest. So I thought, why don't I just invest instead of turning this into somebody else to invest for us? And so I turned that into $604,000 in 11 months. 11 months.
Get out.
Not 11 years. And so we were so happy because of the year that in 2016, when I was studying, when I was taking classes and things like that, I gave this investment companies my $25,000 of my profit sharing. And I was hoping to get at least $25,000 or more after 4 or 5 years, and then lost $13,000, and I only got $8,999. And so I thought, I'm not going to, give my husband's retirement money, have somebody else invest. So I know how to do it because I created this simple, unique miracle system. So why not use it? I proved that I made 6 times my income, right? My first year. And yeah, so within almost a year, but even if you were to make that 204% from 164 to $604,000 in 11 years, that's still good money. But 11 months, almost a year.
So what did you do with the money?
So basically, no. So yeah, so with the investment, the platforms that we use, the company, we just put it in the IRA, and then we just invest within that account. Like my husband and I, we went to Korea for 1 month. We went to Europe for 1 month. We traveled. We do a lot of fun things. And the projects that I've been holding off, like or say, it used to be when I used to work with something break down or something. Because I gotta wait till we save enough money to do it. So it would sometimes take 6 months before we save money to buy broken things or certain things, projects that we want to do. We want to replace our carpet to wood floors because we have a dog. We had to wait. But now, since I became an option trader, since I'm an entrepreneur working for myself, like anything that we want, we could just do it right away. It's okay, let's go buy the materials and just, the life is just so different. And like when we go on vacations, like we could fly first class. We don't have to wait till we spend all this money on a flight. So we don't have any money to do anything. No, we get to go out, enjoy eating out and really tasting the cultures and foods, the other parts of the world that it has to offer. Depends on where we go. I mean, it is a true dream life and never have to worry about it. It's like, usually like when we want to go on a vacation, it's like, okay, let's just withdraw $20,000 or $30,000. We're going to use it. Just mind-blowing.
So how long, like now, today, right, you have so many different hands and projects, right?
Yeah.
You're an author, you're teaching others how to do options trading, you're continuing to do your own trading. How much time are you spending? So I imagine in the beginning, you were learning a lot. You probably spent a lot of time building your systems and strategies. How much time do you spend today with the trading and how does it take up a lot of your time or is it something that is really manageable? How are you organizing your life?
Yeah, it's a very, very manageable. So doing this for about 10 years now. So I 8 to 10 years, I just feel like right now I have a multiple account that I work for myself, right? And I just check my trades. It takes me like 2 minutes to really trade because watch it. Once I set it up, I check it daily I could take it from the phone too, to see how the market is doing. So I'm not sitting in front of the computer. So like when we're having conversations, when I have appointments with the clients and things like that, my trades, because I preset my closing order, like we talked about expiring dates. So I set up so that it will close between now and my expired dates. And so I don't have to worry about it. Maybe I may have to adjust some numbers according to the market, but I don't sit in front of the computer to see how my market is because you can have a life. So I go out to gym, work out toward the end, then we go out to lunch and we do other things, and go outside and do gardening and knowing that my trade is good because how I set up. So it really doesn't take that long. But first time, sure, you have to learn all these things when you're talking from the beginner versus what I've been doing with my simple strategies. It's very simple. Like I said, I would have never made I will never ever make $100,000 if I stayed in my dream job. That's guaranteed,
So do you look at now in terms of your revenue streams and where you're invested? Did you guys continue to build out your real estate portfolio? Is that still an area that you guys spend time and attention is in real estate, or is it mostly now in your entrepreneurial activities and teaching and helping others, and then with the options trading, how are you looking at your investments today?
Yeah. So today, what we do is our main focus is really doing our option trading because, like in our last before the COVID, we bought a building, we spent money to remodel. We had a daycare, senior daycare, and then we opened it for 9 months, and then we sold it because of the COVID. We closed down, and then we bought other properties like restaurants, and we remodel, we sell it, and so things like that. So we did that on the side. We invest, but then mainly I just do option trading. I teach people and mentoring people, doing like public speaking, and then doing a lot of podcasting. And our guest is a podcaster, and I'm here with you. So yeah, just really helping people how to shift their mindset to say you don't have to stay where you are, and you don't have to stay, even though you're doing services, you're serving people. But you have to remember, you have to serve yourself too, because how you serve yourself, the better you could serve yourself, the better you could serve other people. So we have those wanting to learn new way, new techniques, new strategies, right? To live better, more full life, more,
So you're looking to your legacy,
yeah.
and what it is that you are looking to look back on this planet at the end of a beautiful life, and you're, let's say, 105,
Yeah.
how, what sort of legacy are you looking to leave? And what's the story that you hope to leave with the planet?
So I want to leave a legacy with making a huge impact on people's life, where the people are struggling to know how to make money on their own, not having to be stuck working for 9 to 5 job. And so when they learn this, my specific option trading strategies, that they're able to really truly live dream life. My husband and I, we were able to, being able to go on vacations, being able to pay for kids, educations and things. And so not only just being as an author, because then I'm a published author, but having a mentor and say, you know what, I had this really super cool little Asian mentor that, she taught me all these things, and now my life is just so changed, and my kids' life is changed. You know what I mean? And so that kind of legacy that I want to leave is because I want to leave a legacy with a domino effect, whether through my mentoring, through my teaching the skills, option trading skills, or, you know what I mean? Just so many different ways, or helping couples to save their marriages and things like that. Just legacy is really changing people's life for real, for them to really take actions, not just, oh, I heard Sun Young speaking, but really giving them a step, like a actionable, that the actions that they could take now. So there's like I'm listening this podcast, they can start taking actions. Don't wait till like when the time is perfect timing. There's no such a thing as perfect timing. There's never a good age. I'm too young. You know what I mean? I'm too busy. You got to just take actions like today, now. Because what we're talking about today, sometimes we'll say, I'll do it in 5 years from now, or maybe 1 year from now. For some people, it's been 30 years ago that they talked about. Do you know what I mean? 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, because they can take actions.
Yeah. It's you've lived a life that has told a story of great faith and conviction in yourself and in your dreams, and in the ability to be, do, and have the things that you want. And it's such a beautiful narrative, Sun Young. As you think about, obviously, we've spoken a lot about not having money, making money, the liberation with and freedom of being able to live the life of your dreams. I'm going to ask you a question, though. Now it seems silly because it sounds like you really get to have all the things you want, but I'd love for you to share with us, what are some of the favorite things or ways in which you have spent your money recently? What are the things that are bringing you the most joy? What is the most fun that you've been doing with your money?
One is that going on a vacation with my whole family, so my kids and their spouses and the grandkids. So we try to do this vacations like every other year, but it's a big vacations. We all meet together, and also my husband and I, we travel whenever we want, anywhere we want to go, as long as we want, and not having to worry about it and say, oh no, come home and say, oh, I have to make up the money that we spent. You know what I mean? So that's like a worry free, right? And then, like I said, I mentioned earlier, we wanted to redo floors. We don't have to wait. We could just go to the store now and just order it and say, okay. And then I hire somebody to do it, like today. Like, in fact, I've got somebody doing our bathrooms, redoing our bathrooms right now as we're speaking, instead of waiting and not having that, oh, I can't do this year. I can't do this. I got to wait another 5 years. Do you know what I mean? It's just such a freedom. And so it's a fun way. And being able to, I remember when I was working like 5 days a week because, and then my girlfriend, she was married to a rich husband, and she would always come and say, Sonia, I know it's your day out. Can you go to lunch? And I said, no, I can't because I have to work. I was working. Now, like, I could go to lunch anytime with anybody. You know, I mean, that is like huge difference because I remember, oh, I wish I had a time to go to lunch with you. You know, I wish I had a time. I didn't have a time. But now, like, people ask me if it's good month, I go, sure. Like anything. It's such a freedom. It's a freedom.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Stanyang. One of the things I love asking our guests on the show is what are the things right now that you are calling in? What do you need support with? How can we evangelize your work? What can we do to participate? You know, share with us what we can do for you.
Oh, thank you. First of all, so I do have a book couple of books I wrote. I wrote this by myself. It's called Invest Yourself and Throw Away Your Excuses and Turn Your Life Around. So this book is really something that I wrote because I used all these excuses. And I know a lot of people still are using these excuses. Not now, maybe tomorrow, not yet. It's not a good time, right? So they could, purchase this book at 50% off as long as they mention your podcast name. Because, that is the secret to have 50% off. Okay, because it's not on Amazon. We did not put it on, and because we cannot sign it. So I will sign it and send it to it. That's the reason why we didn't really want to put it in the Amazon, because I want to be able to have people connect to me. And then that way, I'll give them a little message with the signature on it. And then this book, my husband and I, we wrote it together. It's called Opposite Opposites. A lot of couples, when we get married, we thought that we married the one, right? And then as you live together and you're like, okay, I like him, I love him, but we're not the same. And so then sometimes marriage, there's a lot of conflicts and things like that. And so this book is also, so both of these books are like helpful books. Very short, 10 chapters. It's a really fun book. This book talks about the things that I do that bugs the heck out of my husband. And then I wrote the things that he does that it bugs the heck out of me. And so it's like a really fun book to read, but it's helpful. So anyway, they could get this 50% off with our signatures on it. And then I'm trying to put together a live event next year. It's called like a Thrive 360, where because of my background with my career, I found that it's so important to live a dream life, and to have a dream life is to have a really good health mentally and physically and financially and spiritually. If you don't have those four things, because think about it, you may be rich financially, but if you don't have a good health, you're ended up in the hospital, laying in bed and say, I got all this money and I can't spend it. You really want to spend that money with your loved ones, right? Or vice versa. So you got to have all those things as
Right.
to be really living your true dream life, because you're going to have a dream health, dream mental health, and dream physical health, and you're connected to with your higher power, spiritual health, right? And also the financial. They all go together.
I think that's beautiful. And we're going to have links to all of your properties and how people can find you in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your passion for life. And it's so clear when hearing your story that, as a little girl, your desire to support and help others, and you're diligent to helping yourself and stand as the example for others is such a profound life calling and purpose, and you are truly living in your destiny. And I am so grateful to have you here today on the show. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being here. And I just love the journey, that those stories that I used to hide, never want to tell, but just really be connecting. And I think the one thing that I want to really leave with your audience, those listening this podcast, is that let's focus on what we have versus what we don't have. And then the attitude of the language that we speak to ourselves daily is the things that we have to do. Yeah, we have to do it. But if we could change that attitude to we get to do it and we want to do it.
Right. To end the show, Danyang, thank you so much for your wisdom.
All righty. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Getting Rich Together, the show for successful women who are looking to take their financial futures to the next level. I'm your host, Shama Bunton. When I started my wealth building journey, nobody knocked on my door to give me all the answers. So I want to talk to the experts who've done it and bring the answers to you so we can discover the right opportunities that will help us achieve the financial futures we've always dreamed of together and have fun doing it. So let's dive into this episode and start getting rich together.